You are listening to the Cookbook Love Podcast with Maggie Green, episode number 333.
Welcome to the Cookbook Love Podcast, a podcast that celebrates cookbook readers, buyers, collectors, writers, and clubs. And now your host, cookbook author, culinary dietitian, and cookbook writing coach, Maggie Green.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Cookbook Love Podcast. How's everybody doing today? We are here in the middle of January, and I hope you're all doing well. Things are going well here in Kentucky. Have had a very quiet month since Christmas has been over. My husband actually traveled all last week, so I was here doing my thing and am really enjoying the peace and quiet that January brings. We had cold weather, we had snow. I've been drinking a lot of tea, working on my business, and enjoying the winter time. So today I want to share a fun episode with you called The Ins and Outs for 2025. I don't know if you have heard of this ins and outs list, but I'm going to give it a try here. And I encourage you to maybe, after we're done with this podcast episode, or even if you want to do this before you listen to my ins and outs list, to get out a notebook and a pen and think about the things in your own life that are in 2025 and things that are out. When I thought about things that are in, I thought about things that I wanted to do again or new things I wanted to try. And the outs were things that I didn't want to bring forward into the new year, that weren't serving me anymore, or that didn't help me grow into the next version of who I want to be. Now, when I talk about that, I just think it's kind of funny to say the next version of who I want to be, but I think that it's important as we get older to always be challenging ourselves and growing in some way. That usually means opening ourselves up to a new experience or to something new or letting go of something. And the growth comes from our ability to handle emotionally what comes up when we try something new. So that's what I'm going to be doing some of here in the new year as well. Before we get started with the ins and outs list, I do want to let you know that I'm hosting a live workshop on Tuesday, January 28th, 2025, called The Recipe Prep for Cookbook Success. In this workshop, I'm going to help you get started with your cookbook project. We're going to talk about recipe writing, selecting and organizing your recipes for your cookbook. So if you are interested in getting your recipes in tip-top shape for the book that you want to write, head on over to www.cookbookwritersacademy.com/recipe prep, and you can register for the workshop. There's a link in the show notes, and I would love to see you then. Okay, so I kind of divided my list up into 4 parts: physical things that relate to my home, my physical health, and pets, because I got a pet thing that's in. Intellectual things for my mind, spiritual things for, of course, my spiritual side, and then emotional things which relate to heart things and connection. I'm also going to include some ins for my business and for books that you can maybe think about also. So again, if you want to make your own ins and outs list, things you want to do more of, things you want to bring forward into the new year, things you want to let go of, things you don't want to bring into the new year, you can stop this podcast here, make your own list, and then listen to mine, or you can listen to mine and then make your own. But I do encourage you to do the work of actually making your own list. I think it's fun to think about the new year in this way. It's not heavy with goals and dates and resolutions and impossible things. It's just kind of like this easing into something new, easing out of 2024, and what do you really want to embrace in this new year? So first of all, I want to create some gallery walls in my home. I don't know if you're familiar with photos that kind of look, I don't know if they call them like pubby or clubby or English manor house, maybe something like that, where there's blankets, upholstered chairs, cozy corners, good lighting, maybe a fireplace, lots of books. And a lot of times in those photos, they have a gallery wall of artwork or photos behind the chair or to the side of the chair or in the room. And it's where there's a lot of pictures hanging on the wall, but creating a sort of gallery for different things that you want to hang on the wall. And I have so many family pictures. I have artwork that we don't have hanging up, so I thought it'd be fun to create a gallery wall. Next thing is wallpaper. I'm going to try some wallpaper. I've been fascinated lately with photos of birds and with peacocks. I've seen a lot of beautiful high-end wallpaper. I have a small bathroom. Thought it'd be fun to explore with that. So I haven't told Warren yet that I'm thinking about wallpaper, because I remember distinctly when we took the wallpaper down in our house, maybe 15, 20 years ago, and he swore never to do it again. But I think maybe there's some new technology with wallpaper, but anyway, I'm going to give it a try. Also interested in carving out time for myself to work on some physical, tangible photo albums and photo books. Now, I think the theme for this year is going to be tangible, tactile, and connection, things that are real. I sometimes sit and think about the amount of digital photos that I have on hard drives, and it bothers me. And I'm going to give myself the gift of time to work on photo albums. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to start and think of it as I go along. The next thing is rye bread and sourdough. We love a brand of rye bread that we can buy in Chicago. We buy it when we go visit our two sons that live in Chicago, and sometimes, actually, every time they've come, the end of 2024, they always brought us a loaf. It's a moist, dense, thick-cut rye bread, and I'm curious, of course, as a cook, if we could recreate that in our home. I can't imagine why we can't. So I'm going to dive into some rye bread exploration. Cold weather walks have been amazing at this first part of 2025. I will continue that. I had a realization and a breakthrough with my walking, though. I always thought I had to walk in the morning, but during the winter, I walk in the afternoon. During the summer, I walk early in the morning, and in the shoulder seasons, which are here in Kentucky, like March and maybe April and October or September, kind of the in-between times, those are the times that I often fall off with my walking, because it's a little too cold to walk in the morning and a little too warm still to walk in the afternoon. So I'm going to really pay attention to the shoulder seasons. I'm, of course, willing, if it's cold, to dress for the cold, get out in the cold, and not let the cold weather stop me from moving. And then, of course, not to let the hot weather stop me from moving also in the summer, but I'll just change the time and wear appropriate clothing then. So I should say hot weather and cold weather walks. But I think cold weather is the one thing that typically prevents people from going outside their home and getting some exercise. So I'm saying cold weather walks. Exploring the town that we live in and the greater Cincinnati area. So many neat places to visit, things to do. I don't know if you know this or not, but Cincinnati is known for having a lot of steps or staircases like built into some of the hillsides. And I bought a book about all the steps and staircases in the Cincinnati area. And they're outdoors. They're often built into a hillside. And a lot of times people will use them to get from lower parts of the street, obviously, up to a higher level. And Cincinnati is actually quite a hilly area. And things like that kind of fascinate me. So more exploration of Cincinnati. Also, in-person shopping. In-person shopping to me is going to be the future of our towns and of our cities and of our city centers. And I think it's important to make the effort to get out and to shop, not just locally, but in person at stores that you want to still exist in your town. I think about this in particular when I need to buy clothes, dresses, pants. Sweaters aren't as difficult. I could buy those online easily, but I do like to try clothes on. And even if I go to the store and pick something out and bring it home and try it on, I can take it back and return it easily. I'm a lot, especially around Christmas, I did a lot more in-person shopping. I really enjoyed it. You get out and move, you get out and get around people, and I'm for more in-person shopping. Also, more vet-approved flea medicine. This past fall, our sweet, fun, beautiful black cat, Virgil, had an allergic reaction to a supermarket topical flea medication. And I didn't realize it at the time what was happening. I just thought that he had a cold or was doing some coughing. Then it got worse, and I took him to the vet, and the vet didn't really, well, he did, it was more for a checkup when I took him. I just mentioned the cough, and he didn't really do anything. But then it got worse and worse after that visit to the vet. And he's an indoor cat. It was odd that he had fleas anyway. They suspect that maybe he picked them up from us having a pet sitter this past summer that came to care for him while we were out of town for 10 days. And say very often through no fault of the pet sitter, but they can carry them in. And of course, fleas love to live on animals. It's the only way they can live. And the poor kitty had a reaction to the topical ointment, developed a really bad cough, was even doing weird positional things to breathe. Took him to the vet in December. He's 1,000% better, but I will be using only vet-approved flea treatment if we ever have to face that again. So that is what is in terms of my cat. Intellectually, like thinking about my next book writing project, I have 2 different things that are on the table. One would require a proposal, and one would be a self-published project that I would work on. So I'm going to carve out time to write, give myself the gift of time to research, and to pursue these book projects. More connection with my family. We have such a good time going to Chicago to visit our sons, have such a good time going down to Central Kentucky to visit our daughter. And my sisters live in Kentucky, and I have 2 sisters that live out of state. So such a good time seeing them also. So I'm going to make an effort for more connection with all these people that I care about. Letters. I tend to write a lot of cards, but I have this idea for writing more letters. And I keep thinking, well, if you want it, well, I'll see how it works out. I'm going to experiment with this, and I'll keep you posted. But more letter writing in 2025. Time with Warren. We have bought a subscription package to a play series, so we can have tickets to a play on a regular basis on the calendar, so we can go out to dinner and go to a play. Really looking forward to that. So more fun things like that also with Warren. From a spiritual perspective, I go to a local Catholic parish. I'm a member at a local Catholic parish. Have always gone to some morning masses during the week, but am taking advantage more of the adoration chapel that they have there that's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I signed up for 2 different times to be the person that's in the chapel. People can drop in whenever they want, but I just find that the quiet time, sitting quiet and still and listening to the voice of God in my life is very valuable. And I'm looking forward to doing more of that in 2025. From a business perspective, road trips and a business that can fund my lifestyle with road trips, going to places where people gather to eat and drink and worship. Very interested in all of that. Also, more books and reading books that contain memories and traditions and stories that people are writing. And I just want to mention from a cookbook perspective, these are the types of things that make a difference to the book that you might want to write, are the stories, memories, and traditions that you bring to a book. And that's what sets recipes apart I wrote an email to my list this morning about putting a face on your recipes. There's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence, and of course, AI can spit out a recipe, it can spit out a grocery list, but I think now as writers, our challenge is to make our recipes more human, to make them sound like somebody that was alive in the kitchen with the food is there when they're writing about it. And I think this goes back to what I mentioned at the beginning with making things tangible, tactile, connected, an emotional connection, something that I don't think AI is going to be able to replicate. I also want to mention, as of today, I think the Supreme Court voted to uphold the ban on TikTok. So just to mention about social media channels come in favor, fall out of favor, trend, go away, and now we're looking at a ban for TikTok. One thing that you might want to consider doing more of if you're building a business is more email and building your own email list. If someone's on your email list, they're there because they want to be there and because they are interested in hearing from you. So I say more email. And to that end, I send an email to my list every weekday. And then on Saturday, there's an update about the podcast episode that came out this week. So if you're not on my email list, I'll also put a link to the show in the show notes to that. Would love to have you join my email list. I share stories and tips for a lot of things from productivity to setting up routines, of course, related to cookbooks and cookbook writing. But I feel like that being a cookbook writer has helped me really improve my productivity, improve my ability to create routines in my life that help me live the life that I want to live, create the things I want to create. And I talk about that in my emails a lot. And just remember, the email list then belongs to you. There's no risk of, can't imagine email ever getting banned. If it does, then we'll just go back to everybody writing letters. But I love email lists. I love receiving people's email, and I highly recommend you consider building an email list again if you don't have one. So those are all of the ins for 2025. Now you can imagine kind of the opposite things are the things that are out for me. What is out is not carving out time to do things that I want to do. I have tons of time. I have a lot of ability. I have a lot of interest, and I'm done with saying that I don't have time. I wasn't really too much into that anyway, but I'm looking at it from a different perspective where I'm carving out time and giving myself the gift of time to do things that really create something that's tangible, tactile, or a connection. Scrolling on my favorite Twitter feed where I have all my UK sports updates for 30, 45 minutes might be fun, but it doesn't really create anything. So I've been thinking about that. I don't think using Twitter is out, but I just have to be sure that when I say I'm going to carve out time as a gift to myself to do things like the gallery wall, the wallpaper, the photo albums, the rye bread, cold weather walks, that I'm really showing up for myself and giving myself the gift of time to do things like that. What else is out? I thought of something else. We went to Vermont and Wisconsin this past year, 2 states I hadn't been to yet, and loved it. I adored both of those trips. Wisconsin was amazing. We went to Door County. We celebrated my birthday. All of our kids came. All of their friends came. We picked cherries. Some of my sisters were there. We had some great trips and times around Door County, Wisconsin. And then I went on a business trip with my daughter to Vermont. And so want to do more of that. I guess what would be out is just revisiting the same places over and over. We have incredible places we can drive to. We always say Cincinnati is only 12 hours from everywhere. It's one of the great things about living here in the middle of the country. If I wanted to get to Denver, though, or to the West Coast, it would take a little bit longer. But I could pretty much put a pin in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, 12 hours around. And gosh, so many amazing places to see. So what's out is just always going to the same place and is trying some more trips. The other thing that's out is forgetting to take photos. I did a list of when I had my birthday, I always every year go down like if you turned 40, you say 40 things to remember about the past year. And I would go through my photos on my phone. And I use those now as a way to remind me of all the amazing experiences I've had with my family, friends, and sisters. So take pictures. Don't forget to take pictures. And even if you're always the one that has to do it, or if it's just something to remember, what's out is forgetting to do that. And what's in for me is remembering to do that. You know what else I even do? And this might be a tip if you want to write a cookbook, is whenever I go to the supermarket, I take a picture on my phone before I put my groceries away of all the ingredients I bought that day. And this helps me to remember the things that I bought, the ingredients I have on hand. And it's a great way if you're working on recipe development to be able to scroll back through those photos and kind of trigger some memories about the kinds of things you've been cooking, the kinds of things you've been buying, perhaps the seasonality to the things you've been buying. And I love doing that every time. And it's just a habit now. I unload all my grocery bags, put them on the counter, take a picture, and then I put everything away. And I did it every week that I went to the supermarket in 2024. So I'm going to continue that also in 2025. I plan to attend a couple of in-person conferences. I'm going to do a 6-week at-home online wintering retreat with a book written by an online spiritual director. Looking forward to that. So shaping up to be a great year. I've got a lot of fun things in store, exciting things in my business and my personal life. And I encourage you to think about things in your life that are in and out. So again, if you are interested in joining me for the Recipe Prep for Cookbook Success Workshop, click the link down in the show notes. You can register for that. And then also I'll drop the link again down there if you're interested in joining my email list. So that is it for today's episode of the Cookbook Love Podcast. This is your host, Maggie Green. And until next time, have a great day and keep loving your cookbooks.
Thanks for listening to the Cookbook Love Podcast. You can find out more information at www.cookbooklove.co.